Hi, this is Shotgun Tom Kelly, and now that I have your attention, you wanted to be close to him in the dugout during his impressive 15-year Major League career because he was always watching, listening, and looking for an edge. Now, Kurt Bavacqua brings that edge to Dirty Kurt's Dugout, where you can listen, watch, and be a part of the most honest, informative baseball show available today. Now, here's Kurt.
Thank you, Shotgun. Appreciate that. Hello, everybody. Hey, please join me today on the show. I want to check out your comments and respond to them. Yeah. Of course, Shotgun Tom, one of the most iconic names in radio, especially DJ type radio. God, what was that guy's name that was so famous I'll think of it because I just threw that out there and I can't think of two things at the same time. I'm thinking about all the stuff that we're going to do on the show today, but we're out of here 3:45 today. Looking forward to week after next because I'm going to be on vacay next week. So I'm going to have a shout out from where I am, and that'll be interesting because I don't even know where I'm going to be. On this date, June 8th, 2022. Want to say thank you, as I always do, to Hacienda Casablanca and Tony and Cindy out there, 700 North Johnson in El Cajon. If you want good food, you got to go see Tony and Cindy because it is really good, especially the wet burritos. Oh, my God. Producer Joe turned me on to those. I didn't know what a wet burrito was before I went out there, but I know what they are now. And they're awful good. John said Wolfman Jack. You know, although he's a great one, Wolfman Jack, I think, was from my neck of the woods, down in the Miami area. I'm talking about a guy that I think was based in the LA market, Rick Dees. There you go. Rick Dees, the guy I was thinking of. I played golf with Rick Dees one day. Him and I were both in a celebrity golf tournament. And the golf course that we were, I shouldn't say that. The house that was hosting the party, it was the Frank Sinatra tournament. The people that were hosting the party was held in a private residence. And this place was off the charts so much that we had the party, the event, in the pool area where there were probably a few hundred people and there was plenty of room. And then we all went from the pool area to the tent that they set up on the property, which sat a good 200 or 300 people. Tables, served food, the whole ball of wax. So in the cocktail portion of this event, I walked by, I was with Raleigh Fingers. We were walking around and there was Rick Dees. He said hello to both Raleigh and I, and he was talking to a gentleman that happened to own the house. 35,000 square feet, the house. Never saw the inside of it, but just from the outside, you could only imagine what the inside look like. And you're surrounded by darkness. We're in Palm Springs. Actually, Cathedral City, the small town just up 111 from Palm Springs. And we're at this guy's house, and he informs us that what we're looking at, which we couldn't see, by the way, was a golf course. And, we both went, I don't understand. Well, an 18-hole championship golf course on the property. So the reason I'm telling you story is because I played golf with not only Raleigh and Rick Dees, but also the owner of the home the next day. And it was a treat. It was a treat. Private, I believe that the gentleman that owns Oracle has recently purchased that estate. Don't have any idea of the value of it or anything like that, but it still has the private golf course, and they still put on golf tournaments there. And I'm not talking about a par 3 course. I'm talking about 7,100 yards from the tips. It's legit. So Rick Dees was the guy I was trying to think of. So guess what happened on this date in baseball history? The Reds' Ed Roush fell asleep in the outfield during a long argument that took place in the infield. We're talking 22, 25 minutes long. The outfielder lays down. Ed Roush is a .325 hitter, lifetime. Played for 20 years probably, at least 18. Maybe he had a night out the night before. I don't know. When it was over, the argument that is, his teammate Heine Groh went out to wake him up, and the umpire ejected him because of delay of the game. Now, I bring this up because umpires seem to find their way in the news every week, almost every night. And this past Sunday was no exception. The Astros beat the Kansas City Royals 7-4. But before that game was over, Ryan Presley came into the game. And let me set the stage for you. It's a 4-3 game after 8. So 8 full innings, 4-3 game. Houston's half of the 9th inning. Altuve leads off with a base hit. Mauricio Dubon grounds into a force play, forcing Altuve at second, and Bregman flies out to right. So with 2 out, 1 on, Dubon's on first. Here comes Yordan Alvarez. And he gets hit in the rib area with a backup slider. So, for those of you that know the game, you don't hit an opposing player purposely with a breaking pitch that backed up or that didn't break. If you're going to hit a guy and you have those intentions, you hit him with a fastball, or you try. And why would you do it in a 4-3 ball game? Because as soon as that happens, as soon as you do it, the floodgates are going to open, or the chances are that the floodgates open. And that's exactly what happened. Houston goes on and scores 3 runs. And now instead of a 4-3 ball game, when Kansas City comes to the plate, it's a 7-3 ball game. There's 2 quick outs. Michael Taylor at the plate. Houston's getting ready to close it down. And let's not forget, they're in first place in that division. They're not going to do any. There's no history between these two clubs. When Alvarez got hit, there were no warnings issued. Nobody got upset. It was a backup slider. So with a 2-0 count on Michael Taylor plays for the Royals, Ryan Presley, the Astros closer, throws a ball here inside on Michael Taylor that tailed. It just got away from him a little bit. He was just trying to throw a strike. It didn't hit Michael Taylor. The umpire throws up his arms because sometimes the game's all about the umpires. We all know that. We've seen that before. He throws his arms up and he points at Ryan Presley. Well, naturally, there's a reaction from Ryan Presley, and he was ejected. Probably more so for what he said than what he actually did that the home plate umpire overreacted to, because it was the craziest thing. So this umpire goes on and warns both benches. With this ball, it was inside maybe this far, that the hitter's diving in on like they all do now. I mean, we saw Pete Alonso get hit last night here in San Diego on a pitch that knocked his hand off the bat, and he was diving into it. I'm telling you, folks, 25 years ago, there's not one hitter in the big leagues that would have got hit with that pitch. Not one. And it doesn't have anything to do with athleticism. It's got everything to do with the way the game was played and what you expected in certain situations. Alonso wasn't hit last night purposely, but the way hitters approach hitting nowadays is diving into the ball because nobody throws the ball inside anymore. So that home plate umpire, by the way, his name is Vic Caraposa. And, you know, he's been a pretty good umpire. I don't know what happened to him the other day, but he was way off base. So with the Mets here in San Diego, Bob Melvin got an opportunity to talk, Padres manager, about just how good Buck Showalter, who's the manager of the Mets and has him in first place in the Eastern Division, because Buck was actually Bob Melvin's manager in one of his years with the Yankees. I didn't even know that until this interview. It was pretty cool. But something as simple as this that most people don't think about. 2 or 3 days before one of Melvin's starts, which incidentally were far and few between, Buck goes and sits down next to him in the clubhouse, made sure there was not a whole lot of people around. And he goes, "Bob, you're in there against so-and-so. Because I like the way you swing the bat against him. You can hit this guy." And he just walks away. Well, Melvin went 3 for 4, hit a home run. And the rest is kind of managerial history, because now Buck Showalter is known as one of the smartest managers in baseball. And that's been shown a couple of times. One of them was up in Dodger Stadium when something was attempted by the Dodger manager that wasn't going to fly as far as Buck was concerned. I don't even know if Roberts would have got away with it if it wasn't for Showalter stepping on the top step and going, "Wait a second, can't do that." So with the score 9-4, Dave Roberts tries to bring in a position player to pitch. I know a lot of questions out there. Are you giving up on the game? It's only the eighth inning. You have such a potent offense. Are you giving up on a 5-run game by bringing in a position player? But that wasn't what ended up being the story here. What ended up being the story was that you can't bring in a position player unless there's 6 runs on one side or the other difference. So Dave Roberts didn't know this rule, or at least at the time. And in his defense, the rule was implemented for the 2020 season. It was back and forth, and I guess they threw it back in there. But somebody knew about it, so it must have been a rule that was implemented, taken back, and then implemented again. So with all this talk about how smart this guy is, all of a sudden we hear stories coming out of the Mets camp of the video seminars that Buck put on in spring training. If you remember, I specifically remember because during the lockout, Buck Showalter was one of the first guys in the camp. Long before the players showed up, because he didn't know when the players were going to show up. But he was down in Port St. Lucie waiting for him. Couldn't have any conversation with him. It's against the rules. But he was preparing. And one of the things that he was preparing for happened in Arizona a couple of weeks ago, where Showalter's Mets were playing the Diamondbacks. There's a runner on first and third, and there's a fly ball hit. Well, the runner leaves early. Now, the Arizona Diamondbacks had runners on first and third. I want to make that clear. And it is a relatively short fly ball to the outfield, and the runner was a little anxious, and sometimes they can get caught off guard, and he left early. Well, they knew that the D-backs were going to appeal this play, and they also knew that they were going to win. So what happens? Well, Oliver Perez, the pitcher for the Mets, steps off, dekes the run. You know how you appeal? Pitcher goes into his windup or stretch. He steps off the rubber, throws the third. Third baseman tags third base, and the umpire motions safe or out. Well, instead of doing that, they deked the runner into thinking that he could go to second because there's still a runner on first because he didn't tag on the fly ball. So he remained at first base. So the Mets threw over, let the runner steal second, and it nullified any play that the D-backs had with challenging it because of the rules that once a runner puts himself into motion, that it nullifies the previous play. So that's only stuff that Buck Showalter does, and they went over it. They went over this in video in spring training. And you know what else they went over? They went over, and we see this all the time. If you watch Little League baseball or any kind of amateur baseball, even up through high school, you see it almost in every game, every other game. In the big leagues, you see it every so often. You see two players occupying the same base. Well, who has the right of way? Hey, Joe, we need to give away first person that comes up with who's got the right of way is going to get a Hacienda Casablanca gift card. Two players occupy the same base. You go up there and tag both of them. Who's out? First person that comes up with them giving away these cards. These cards are hard to give away sometimes. Oh, there's my list. Kip Gross, one of my former peers, hates the rule, but hates it even more that Buck Showalter did it. Okay, we need to get into that history. Terrence is here as usual. Ozzie Virgil, you know what? There's only one person I love more than Ozzie Virgil Jr., and it's Ozzie Virgil Sr. And Ozzie Jr. just visited his dad in the Dominican Republic where he's living. God, I love that guy. He was our coach here in San Diego for all the Dick Williams years. He was a coach for Dick Williams for quite a few years. But the reason I got close to Ozzie was Enos Cabell and I were teammates on the team that Ozzie managed us in Venezuela, in Maracay. And when I say we, Enos and I and Ozzie played golf every day. I mean, we played golf every day. So I'm going to cut short that story and say the second player, I don't know who the second player is. I'm assuming that it's the guy that comes up on the original runner. Did I ask who was out or who was safe? Because there's a difference. What did I say, Joe? Do you remember? I don't even remember how I turned.
I believe you said who is out.
Who is out? Okay. The second player is correct. So Ozzie's not going to be in San Diego. If you come here in San Diego, Oz, I'm going to hand you that gift card personally because you were the first one to get it. Russ Cruz said the first one, and actually the original player is safe. He's not out. So it's the original player's base when there's two players on the same base. So there you go. This is all stuff that Buck Showalter goes, and evidently Kip's got something with Buck. We'll find out about that someday, maybe right here on the show. But that's the kind of stuff that you get taught when you've got a manager that's smart. You think these managers, I'm sure some of them do, but if you think these managers today are teaching stuff like that, you got another thing coming. So I neglected to say thank you at the top of the show. So I'm going to do it right now, and I'll do it again when we finish. Our buddy Tom Drake at Lacima Oil on Balboa and Genesee, your neighborhood Chevron dealer, with this $100 gift card that he gives out quite often to our listeners. And also, of course, Tony and Cindy at Hacienda. We thank them all the time. So we talked about how smart Buck Showalter was. His Mets are in town. The Padres did not look good in Blake Snell's start in the opening game of the series against the Mets. And then they come back last night and just look like a completely different team. Here we got the New York Mets that are in first place with an 8-game lead over the world champion Atlanta Braves in the Eastern Division. And then you've got the San Diego Padres who are nipping at the heels, which the closest races in baseball are in Milwaukee and St. Louis, not in Milwaukee, but with Milwaukee and St. Louis, and also in the West with the San Diego Padres. In the American League, just a couple of weeks ago, I was telling you how amazing it was that the Los Angeles Angels were in first place over the Houston Astros. Boy, how quick does the worm turn? Not only does Joe Madden get fired, but the Angels find themselves 9.5 games out of first place in the West. The reason for the firing. I don't know what can happen in 2 weeks, but evidently it did. And Joe Madden is gone. And Phil Nevin takes over as the manager of the Los Angeles Angels. So next week, because I've got right on a 30-minute show this week, got a little bit of a surprise for you. There is a gentleman that's well known on social media. He is the administrator and author of a blog called The Baseball Cube. His name is David Jordan. Dave Jordan's not only the initiator and author of The Baseball Cube, but he's also a world-renowned writer and filmmaker living on the East Coast. Wrote some great books. One of them with John D'Acquisto, who I'm good friends with, and another one with one of my favorite teammates in all of baseball, Dave Parker. I'm sorry. I had Dave Roberts on my mind with the Buck Showalter thing. But Dave's going to be with us, and I'll tell you why. It all spurred from the fact that I read one of his posts, and he was talking about a guy by the name of Chuck Hartenstein. And if you don't know who he is, Google him. He was picked up in the 77 expansion draft. And Dave made reference to the fact that Ray Hartsfield, who was the manager of the Blue Jays, why would they want a 34-year-old relief pitcher when they have a pretty good selection of younger players? And one of the reasons thrown out there was that Chuck Hartenstein was only like 30 or 40 days short of being a vested pension benefit major league player. And that was the reason that the Toronto Blue Jays drafted him. I go, wait a second. You know me. I go, there's no way that the reason they drafted this guy was to give him 30 or 40 days so that he could get on a pension plan. Management and owners just aren't going to do that. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a lot of other stuff revolving around Dave's career. And we'll talk about that Chuck Hartenstein 77 Topps card, because that was really the reason for his post. It's supposed to be an iconic baseball card. Getting back to the standings real quick, the New York Yankees, as we all know, in the American League East, have a big lead over the Toronto Blue Jays, which is kind of surprising. I don't know if it's going to stay that way, but we'll see. The Chicago White Sox are only 4 games back of the Minnesota Twins. And of course, I brought up the fact that Houston's got a huge lead in the American League West. And they got a pretty good team, as we all know. The New York Mets, they're really not surprising everybody, although they're surprising a lot of people because of the fact that they don't have Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer. These guys are due to come back in a month. And the Mets have an 8-game lead now. I don't know what it's going to be, but I can tell you right now, with the way Adrian Morejon threw the ball last night for the San Diego Padres, this is a kid that went down in April of 2021 in the first inning, walked off the mound, and he needed Tommy John surgery. He's had it. Last night's appearance for the Padres was his first trip back to the mound since he had Tommy John surgery. He pitched the 8th and 9th inning. He throws 9 pitches in the 8th inning. He didn't strike out the sides, but he threw 9 pitches in each inning. And his fastball's topping off at 97, 98, 99 miles an hour. The Padres already have one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. If one or two of these younger kids comes through, I mean, we're already seeing what Mackenzie Gore can do. When Tatis comes back with Luke Voigt starting to swing the bat, Profar is doing a heck of a job recently. Jake Cronenworth starting to swing the bat. Trent Grisham, although I'm still a little iffy on him, I'm hoping he comes through and is the kind of player that he was a couple of years ago, because he was exciting. Won a Gold Glove somehow. But just the same, I think baseball here in Southern California is going to be really, really exciting, especially on a National League side for the remainder of the year. So look for me to do some lives on Facebook when I'm gone. And then we will do a show a week from next Wednesday. I get back and I'll take a day, and I have to got to do a really special thing. And I'll tell you guys about that with a 4th grade class in New Jersey on the 22nd. So our show will be on the 23rd at 3:15. I will see you then. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Thanks to everybody that made comments. Thanks, Kip. I got to find out about Madden. Yes, I will. And Ozzy, it was good to see your name. Russ, thank you for your comments. Everybody, thank you for your comments. Alan Gross. That's the guy I'm going to do the deal for on the 22nd. So after it's done, as a matter of fact, I'm going to call Alan in a little while to set that up, because it's going to take a Zoom call and all of that. So we're very excited about it, and it's something that's going to take place on the 22nd, and the next show is going to be on the 23rd. But I will do some Facebook Lives from where I am. So,
hey, Kurt, can I jump in here for a second?
Please do.
There was a little bit of confusion on who won the trivia question. Was that Ozzie Virgil?
I think he was the first one, right? Or was it? It looks like Ozzie.
It was Ozzie then. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
I
it.
assume you have his contact info, I assume?
I do.
Okay.
I do. We're
Ozzie,
good to go.
Contact Kurt. Okay. I'm ducking out.
Yeah, we can talk. And then again, Hacienda Casablanca, thank you for your support of this show. And also Tom Drake at Lacima Oil. Thanks for watching Dirty Kurt's Dugout. And until next time, goodbye, everybody.